I look like fucking crust of the earth. What are you gonna do about it? Because I'm here and you're there, so. Hi. Welcome to my video diary series where I continue to crash out online. My name's Ray. Many regrets, and I won't talk about it. I won't talk about it, but I'm here talking about it. So, yeah, I have this crazed look in my eye. I'm not looking my best. Should we put the hoodie up? I don't know. Something's amiss. Something's afoot. Something's amiss and something's afoot. Mm. And I've decided I'm starting a video diary series of me going through therapy of me going through therapy. I had my first clarity call last week. And yeah, your girl's got a lot to heal, okay? You got a lot to heal. And there's been so many experiences that have brought me to why I really want to get deeper into a therapeutic journey. But right now, the primary motivation is like you know anxiety, relationship anxiety specifically. I don't want to say that I'm a person that has anxious attachment style. While I like as a textbook definition, like you could definitely say I do, but like I don't know, attachment theory. I'm a social worker by trade. Let's start there. Attachment theory, I have some critiques of, as much as it is a helpful framework to understand human behavior and how we relate to one another and different elements that cause us to attach in different ways. But I am, I think, more comfortable with the label relationship anxiety. And I have recently been seeing a new guy. I'm bisexual, by the way. I go through flows of dating men and, women. Right now, it's Haman. Not my greatest choice. I know. And a man that, we started off as friends a year ago or over a year ago now. Nearly a year and a half ago, I met this man. He was very clearly interested in me. I was interested in somebody else at the time. He was also coming down in a relationship, like he was coming out of a relationship, and I was like, it sounds like you got some things you need to sort out. Um, and that was an open relationship at that. And I was like, oh yeah, me, Miss Monogamous Molly. I like, even if you are interested in me and you were single, like I don't practice this type of lifestyle. They inevitably broke up. And like it's been a whole year since him and his ex have broken up. He has been floating around as a single man. You can call him poly, but I think he's just mainly been dating. Like he hasn't been in any relationships. He's just been dating multiple people at multiple times. Him and I, not multiple times, him multiple people at the same time. Him and I, kind of weirdly got into this like frequent and infrequent and frequent like hookup over the year. Like there would be like a month or a month and a half or two where we were like seeing each other almost every weekend, just having a little adult fun. And then I wouldn't see him for months. And that was by my choice. Like I was like, I don't want to get myself wrapped up in something like this with someone like you, even though I thought throughout we would maintain contact. I would always share everything with him, all of my emotions, things that were going on. During that period of time when he was dating, people, I was actually dating someone or attempting to date someone seriously, and that went completely left in a way that like crushed me. I shared that with him. So we had this like really strong foundation of a friendship despite the on and off kind of like sexuality of it all until about like 2 months ago. What month is it? January. Yeah, until about 2 months ago. Mind you, throughout the summer and into the fall, he was always and just throughout in general, he was always very, he would joke, but it was also serious that he's like, I like you and like I want to, if he were to ever give me a chance, like I would love to explore this, seriously. He would always tell me that like he thinks I have the traits of somebody that like could be his wife and all this other stuff, and I'm like, yeah, 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 whatever, bro. Um and I would brush it off, or I would tell him, please don't tell me those things because you're also sleeping with like everybody in the city, not everybody, but like, he had a few ladies on his arm. I was like, you're not a serious man. Like, I don't want to do this with you, right? And I think that allowed a level of control in our relationship because I was very clear in my orientation that I'm like, I'm not pursuing this man as a relationship. I have zero desire to do so. Um, and he's not serious, right? So anytime that like we would intermingle in a sexual way, I felt very in control of what we were doing, and I was fine with it, and I didn't care. And I'm starting with this preface because it all began with I didn't care, and now I care too much. It all began with I didn't care. I didn't care about these other women. I didn't care about his ex. I didn't care. I didn't care what the man was doing. I didn't care about none of it. And then when my orientation towards this began to shift, then old Renee, then anxious Renee from, her previous relationships and traumas and triggers, which my God, I'd like, we need a whole diary storytelling to unpack all of the things that have led me to like an anxious relationship attachment style or just having relationship anxiety in general. Um, and that's why I say it's in general. It's not like attachment to certain people. Like I just have relationship anxiety in general. And this doesn't only mean just romantic relationships. This means platonic relationships. This means uh, um even professional relationships. And the reason I'm saying it's not necessarily anxious is because it can go one of two ways. It either wants me to like latch on or it wants me to run away. So then I could see how that relationship anxiety also makes me avoidant, right? So that's why I'm like, I don't know if I label myself with anxious attachment, but anyway. Um yeah, around October, November, things started shifting. I don't know, I started seeing him differently. I was like, you've just been so consistent. Like you're always here, you're always telling me all these sweet things. Like, I do enjoy the fun we do have. He would tell me still about his like other women he was seeing very openly, very honestly, but then would always be like, I am essentially waiting out on you. And I think it was around October, I was like, I'm down to like open my heart again because I'm a lover girl. I just want to be with my person. Honestly, that's all I want. I just want to be with my person. I'm tired. I just want my person. Come here. Come here. Like, what are we doing? Why are you taking so long? So I was ready to open up my heart again and be like, I'm ready to like, try and take someone seriously. And he was there and I was like, should it be him? Like, I don't know. And I mean, we have a great friendship. Um, and our birthdays are around the same time. We're the same sign. We're both Scorpios. Um, and I was like, you know what? I had just celebrated my birthday. He was out of town. His birthday was coming up like 2 weeks after mine, not even. Um, and I was like, okay. I was like, let's do something nice for this man's birthday. Cause he was also like, he was being all down in the dumps. Like he didn't want to do anything. And me, I like celebrating other people's birthdays. I don't really like celebrating my own. So, I was like, okay, I'm gonna come over. We're gonna make food. I'm gonna get you a few, little small gifts. Blah blah blah. And it turned out to be this like very romantic evening that I was not intending for it to be romantic. I was like, I just want to celebrate your birthday and spend a little time with you and see through spending this time like, is this somebody that I might like actually be interested in shifting? And like if that's the case, then we'll explore that. And I don't know, I feel like that night kind of changed everything very quickly. And then we started just like without saying we were like courting one another or whatever, we just started courting one another. I don't know what happened. It was like, and we were like, okay, like we're doing this now. Like, so that was early November. Throughout November, we're like hanging out, talking way more like emotionally than we have in the past. A lot of like the I miss yous, and I was even like, what's going on? I was starting to get very burnt out from my work in no, November going into December, and I was like, you know what, I'm deciding to just treat myself to a little vacation. I was telling him about it, and I was like, hey, you should come, and he was like, I'd be actually down. So we literally went to Mexico together for a few days, and that's when everything changed. And I was like, oh, I think we might like really like each other, or I'm realizing like I like you, and before I was kind of like I like you, like you're cool, we have fun sex or whatever, and you're a great friend, but you're over here. And from November into December, I was like, okay, there's portions of me that I feel like I could like really develop romantic feelings for this man, but I'm not. I'm still, I'm still not comfy with that yet. By the time we went to Mexico and came back, I was like, okay, like I like this man. And I realized I've actually always kind of liked this man. I've just been holding him at arm's length because of the way that I've seen him engage with women. Like when I met you, you're not hitting on me, but you're expressing interest with me and you're not completely done your relationship yet. Your relationship ends and then you're kind of just throwing yourself, into sexual relations with random people. So it wasn't giving me a lot of confidence. Yeah, and it still doesn't. So I come from a history of infidelity, like abusive partners that would cheat, that would lie for no reason, manipulate, and there's been a lot of healing over the several years of these kind of reoccurring relationships. To the last one where he met me, that I was trying to really pursue someone who also was dishonest and kind of re-triggered and resurfaced a lot of things that I thought I healed. Now I'm looking at this man and I'm like, while you're honest about, you being very open with your dating and like all of that stuff, and I'm being honest around, I'm a monogamous woman. This is one of the main reasons why you and I would never work whenever he brought it up. We're somewhere in this weird space where he's like, I feel like I'm shifting. I've been in monogamous relationships before. I want to explore this with you. And I'm like, fine, I will explore it with you. But everything within me is just wanting to run. I want to run. And that's the relationship anxiety. These diaries are for the point of me just trying to get it out. And I'm bringing this to my therapy as well too. I've only had one session, so as I record these videos, I'm gonna try and fuse in what I'm learning from therapy. But my first session was just like I just have a deep fear uh, um, of being hurt. So it's not even like a fear of abandonment or anything like that. I've been abandoned in this life. I've been lied to in this life. I've been manipulated. I've been all these things, and like yes, we can say that is within the sphere of a fear of abandonment, but I also am very comfortable being by myself. Like I'm not like if someone were to leave me, I understand that that's the reality of this life and I'm not going to die over it, as much as that is shitty, if that makes sense. So maybe me about 5 6 years ago had a fear of abandonment. I would do anything to try and keep somebody around, like even though I know that person was not good for me. Now I just have a fear of being hurt in general that has me wanting to sometimes latch on to certain people. I find that's mainly in my friendship area, but in relationships, because I've had so much relationship trauma, any little fear of that I might get hurt, whether it is like a real fear or it's one that I'm making up in my head, makes me just want to run. And there have been many moments throughout, me and this man knowing each other over the last year that I've pushed him away. We've spoken about this very candidly. He's like, you have put me through tests in the ringer, okay? And I'm like, yes, because I'm actively being like, bro, just go, yeah, to see if you really want this, like, and you haven't gone, but now that like we're actually in a space where him and I are talking openly about like, okay, we're actually trying this, we're like pursuing one another, we're seeing where it goes, and we're not labeling it right now. My brain is just flooding with, is he still sleeping with other people? We've had this conversation throughout December. He was still seeing one person specifically. Then he's telling me that's waning down. Now, as of like last week, he's like, yeah, that's like not a thing anymore. I'm really just kind of focused on you. And I'm like, okay, that was really reassuring because, last week, over the weekend, I was spiraling. Like, I was at his place, I was seeing different, like, gifts that were from women, and I was like, the hell's going on? We just finished Christmas season, right? So I was like, did they just drop this off? Are you still seeing these people? What's going on? I've been with you most of December in all of our free moments, right? Hey, and it caused me to crash out and just spiral, and not crash out to him, but crash out by myself. Like I like to be crazy alone, I try not to project that. But it just caused me to crash out, and I was like, like he's lying, he's doing all these things. He's like, inevitably this isn't gonna work. He's not gonna want to settle down. I'm here getting deeper feelings. Like the more deep my feelings begin to develop, the scareder I become, right? And the more anxious I become that like something terrible is just gonna happen. And like there's I think portions of myself within like trying to maintain control that I'm like I like trying to maintain control of like my own emotions and what's happening for the purpose of trying to like preserve me from being hurt, but I'm trying to keep my heart open. It's very uncomfortable. It is very uncomfortable. And it's reminding myself I want to cry. It's reminding myself that everything in this life is a risk. You know, the minute you decide to invest in something, it's a risk. Whether it's a person, whether it's literally like a monetary investment, whether it's a change in space and career, it's a risk. Um, and I'm learning to try and still keep my heart open when the risks feel heavy. The risk to me is not only of being hurt, but the risk is like of I'm a person where I'm very all or nothing, which is what I'm trying to find a bit more of a balanced perspective in. That also drives my relationship anxiety. I want to give everything to you. I want to show up 100%. I want to my love languages are physical touch and quality time. So like any little free moment I have, I want to spend it with you. So that's what's driving my anxiety this weekend, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But it all feels risky. Like the deeper I get, the more invested I get, the more I want to inject myself in this process, and I'm not seeing that mirrored back. And it's not to say that he's not giving me validation and he's not giving me reassurance, because he is. And even last week when I brought to him my concerns around like, okay, what's going on with these women? It's making me feel insecure. It's causing me to be scared. I'm not insecure in the sense of like I'm comparing myself to these other women. I know what I bring to the table. I'm a ridiculously intelligent, beautiful, compassionate person. Um and I know I'm a good partner because I've been one. Like, and I've been one consistently to every partner that I've been with, regardless of them being trash to me. Like, I know I'm a good girlfriend. I may be a little crazy sometimes. And by crazy, I mean like I'm just emotional. Like, but I'm accountable. I admit when I'm wrong. I show up. I try to help you grow. I have my own growth going on. I'm not completely like codependent. That's another thing of anxious attachment that I don't resonate with. That's why I don't label myself with this. I'm not codependent. Like I have my own shit going on, and I expect you to have your own shit going on too. Like I like my alone time as much as I like time with you. Um and I know that when I find that sweet spot in a relationship, like when I'm comfortable, the balance just comes, but it's leading up to that sweet spot, and we have like a okay, we know what we're doing, that I just feel like a tornado in my head. And I've been single for the last 5 years, since my last you know relationship, which we were together for 4 years. Okay, I thought I was going to marry this man. We were living together, and the reason that we broke up, it was actually a very healthy breakup. It's just because the ways that we were like what we were wanting for our future, like the makeup of our lives, were becoming very, very different from when we first met each other. When we first met each other, we're like, we want to be like in the city, blah, 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 doing all these different things. As we were growing older, you know, who I was dating, they're like, I want to like live in the mountains and have a very quiet, like almost isolated life. And I'm like, I'm the opposite. I want to be still in the city, having an artsy fartsy life, no kids, just traveling. And they're like, I want like 10 kids in the forest, right? And I'm like, okay, these are big sacrifices to be making for one another at so early. And we chose to like go off and pursue what you actually want. That's why we broke up. Um, and I've been single ever since then. No, because one, that was the healthiest relationship I've ever had. Somebody who 100% supported me, showed up for me. We were growing with one another. We had our problems, not to say we didn't, but I have been unable to find something like that again. And most of the people that I have met have just actually reminded me of people before my ex, who were constantly lying, cheating, doing all these different things, resurfacing a lot of emotions that I thought I healed with my last relationship, right? And it's been these reoccurring disappointing experiences up until meeting this guy, that I'm like, are you just going to be, the same thing? So I'm realizing that I'm in a period of uncertainty before we reach a comfy space, that I do need a little bit more validation and reassurance than usual, um, and I'm getting even anxious about how to ask for that reassurance and validation without seeming completely crazy and without being annoying. Like, which is what happened on Monday. I'm like, I have all these thoughts in my head. It's completely ruining my mood. I find when my mind spirals, I can't concentrate. So I'm there thinking, like, I saw these gifts in your apartment, your ex, like he was telling me a story about how his ex might be moving and is also expressing to through friends that like they kind of want to get back together with them. And I was like, what? And like, all these different things. And my brain is like, this isn't gonna work. Like, this just isn't going to work. And one day he's gonna tell me I don't want to settle down with just one person, or I'm back together with my ex, or blah 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 blah. I was crying, bro, like for no reason. And I decided to tell him, like, when he was like, "Hey, like, how's your day going?" I was like, "It's shit." Like, and he's like, "Oh, what's that about?" And I was like, "I don't know." Left it for a day. Next day, he's like, "How you feeling today?" I'm like, "Still shit." Like, and he's like, "Okay, like, do you want to talk?" And I'm like, "I guess." And I just kind of laid it out there. I'm like, "Listen, I know I'm gonna sound crazy, but this is how I feel. This is what I saw. The gift. Why is there fig jam in your apartment from some bitch? Like, why is there? What's going on? Why is your ex wanting to get back together with you? I know you were honest with me about that story, but it feels weird. It feels weird. I don't like it. Like, do you still talk to that girl that you were sleeping with in the summer? Like, what's going on? I have so many questions." And he handled it very well. Whoa. Like, I want to give him that. Yo, about to get South Africa. Yo. He handled it very well. And he gave me the validation and reassurance that I needed. But I'm like, at what point do I need to soothe myself through this? At what point are some of these emotions I'm feeling my intuition and discernment trying to tell me stuff versus, projected triggers? At what point do I need to just stop caring about some of this stuff and allowing it to flow? And again, leaning into the risk, and while still asking my heart to remain open. So, one of the things from my session, my first session was, she's like, "You have an open heart. You obviously have a desire to want to connect and be in a relationship with people, whether it be, platonic, romantic, or otherwise." But she's like, you have a limited capacity for your heart to remain open, and what's limiting that capacity, like within your chest, if you think of your chest as like this cage, is that fear of being hurt. So while your heart is wanting to be open, you'll get to a sensation and a feeling with somebody, for example, this guy I'm seeing, and it'll expand to here, and you're like, "Wow, this feels really good. I'm comfy right here." And then as you're starting to feel your heart open a little more because your feelings are developing, right, it hits that wall of fear in your chest, and it can't expand any further. And that's what's producing the anxiety for it to want to rescind back. Your heart wants to close again because it's reached its maximum. So it's not about actually trying to break that cage. That wall of fear, whenever there's risk, is going to be there. That's a human emotion. What she said is working on expanding that cage for a bit more room so your heart can expand further, right? And hopefully transcend eventually past the cage of fear. The cage of fear is always there, but perhaps the cage door will be open at some point to say, "You know what, my heart can still love, the love can still flow out, through this door, even though it feels like the barricades are here, even though I feel uncomfy, I'm still pushing for love. I'm still pushing to keep my heart open." And it's not this completely uncomfortable exercise, which is what I feel like I'm in a space of right now that is making me want to block this nigga for no reason. I'm gonna be honest. I just want to like message and be like, "Listen, we're just like not we're not on the same page, okay? We're not looking for the same thing. I don't want to limit you. I think you should just go back and do your own thing, and I need to do my own thing." Those have been the last few people that I've attempted to date, with the exception of the one last year who's just lying. But everyone else that I've attempted to date, I've reached a certain point, and then I've literally just been like, "Never mind, just go," you know. And I'm trying not to do that with him, like. I feel like he's a very like secure person. He's had very good relationships. I haven't. And we've had open talks about this. He's like, for the most part, I've had very stable, like, healthy relationships that ended for legitimate reasons that were non-dramatic. Like, it wasn't some huge betrayal that led to the reason as to why me and my exes broke up. It was, yeah, misalignments, differences in futures, perhaps family life wouldn't actually mesh in reality, and those things. And he's like, and I've maintained like okay friendships with the majority of my exes because it hasn't ended in turmoil. Whereas my landscape of relationships is completely different. It's a lot of pain, it's a lot of trauma, it's a lot of hurt, it's a lot of. So I feel like his already orientation towards developing relationships comes with a lot of trust because he has a secure base. Like, it comes with a lot of like emotional balance. Like, he'll talk about, "Yeah, I have fears approaching this and whether I can like show up and really like commit and not like, and all these different things." But the way that he talks about his brain process of talking himself down off of that ledge or even just bringing it up is just so much more like level headed and calmer than me. And I feel like I'm a Tasmanian devil, just like in the corner, spiraling. Like, and it doesn't feel good. It's one of the reasons, again, that I'm trying to reinvigorate there because I'm like, a lot of this energy that I have of just like vibrating all over the place, I need to take care of myself. It's not his responsibility because that's just baggage, right? And there's certain baggages that um people you're dating will naturally help you through and they'll assume some ownership over, but it can't be the whole load, honey. It's like when you're traveling with 40 bags, you can't expect your boo to carry them all. You got to carry some. You might need to get a trolley, right? Like the therapist is my trolley at this point. Like, yeah, and I'm trying to move through it and bro, I just feel scared. And I know because I've been hurt many times before that I will inevitably bounce back. But that's where my brain is going. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Next week, if this thing doesn't work, like reorient yourself back here. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. Like, I'm already making the plan for when this ends because I've gone through those motions so many times to get myself back to like just an okay routine. It's taking away from just enjoying this experience, but it's also taking away from the fact that like, hello, I have a life outside of this. Like, and this is what I hate about dating for me and why I need to heal some of this anxiety is because it becomes this all consuming thought. Like when before, just a couple months ago, when I didn't care, I was doing my own thing. I was busy. I had shit to do. And I still have shit to do, and I'm still busy. And I'm just here. I feel immobile because my brain space is being taken up by something that is insignificant at this point because it hasn't happened. And like it doesn't have any evidence to support it. So this leads me to this weekend. I'm sitting here this weekend, like I didn't have any crazy major plans, but I did have some work to do. Okay, it's Sunday. I have work again tomorrow. Blew off yesterday and Friday night because I don't know. I don't know. I'm sitting here waiting for what? Okay. Burrow told me, since him and I have been intensifying romantically, we've literally spent every weekend together. I also had a shit ton of time off in December, and so we spent the majority of like December together. It was very like almost love bomby. Like I think a lot too fast, and now I feel a bit disoriented from that process because it's like, how do you spend so much time with someone and then all of a sudden you're like, just back to regular life? And so I'm like, yeah, we have jobs, we have things like his. This is another anxiety of mine. His career and his schedule is completely different than mine, so I'm like, how is this going to work? But whatever. Um, I'm a 9 to 5er. He's a musician. That will tell you everything you need to know. But yeah, so now I'm back to the groove of work. He's, getting himself back onto his musical projects for this year. Um, and we're trying to refine balance. Like where before we were just able to spend oodles and oodles of all this time together for what felt like forever, but in reality it was like a month, right? And so I know that we have life and things to do. And that's not a huge issue. I think the other part of me is the assumption that just because you have free time, it needs to be spent with me. And I think that's where I need to work on this idea of readiness. So that's another thing that's different between him and I. I've been very vocal that I'm ready to be in a relationship. I'm ready to like court with intention, which means yeah, the free time we do have to like we're utilizing this to explore within boundaries. Like there are like not every day, me. You obviously want alone time, but there's a certain level of like intentional courting, asking me on dates, like I'm asking you on dates. We're showing up in a very specific way that I am a bit more traditional minded around, let's just say that, than he is. um and I think this weekend, like not a new anxiety but another anxiety that's coming up, he was supposed to be doing a bunch of recording, like studio sessions. I had asked him, like, did you want to hang out this weekend? He was like, I'm like gonna be back to back in the studio, but maybe like Saturday night at this time. And I was like, listen, it sounds like a little bit of a hassle, so we can just do another time, right? I understood that you're busy. And he's like, okay. He's then flying away to go record in another province next weekend. So I'm not going to see you next weekend. And so he's like, the following weekend, he's like, let's you and I reserve it for like us. I said, yes, okay, you're being intentional. You're telling me your schedule. We're understanding the barriers to meeting up right now, but we're preserving time. I'm okay with that. I'm not completely crazy, you know? So I'm like, that's just fine. So I had already resolved within myself that I'm just like, I'm not going to be seeing him this weekend and I'm not going to be seeing him next weekend, whatever. And it's work. We're messaging and, um, you know, on Friday night, I'm finishing work. He's like chilling out after doing some writing for some program he wants to get a grant for. And again, because he had already told me the recording for him on Saturday is going to start super early, I already knew Friday night was never going to be a thing for us to hang out. So we're just chatting. Saturday morning comes, and then he sends me a message saying, "Oh, the recording sessions for this weekend from the producer gets canceled." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And already on Saturday morning, I woke up and I was like, "Oh, like, I do have work to do, but it would be so nice to just like see him." I was even thinking, and so this is what show tells you that like I like to show up 100%. Like whenever we've been hanging out, we've been like cooking for each other and blah blah blah. We both share like like an ethnic background in terms of our parents, and he was telling me he was craving some traditional foods, and I love to cook, right? And so I'm like, oh, I might make that traditional food or whatever. So Friday night, he's asking me what are my plans, and I was like, oh, I have to do some work, and then I'm like, I'm gonna make that food you said you were craving, um, mainly because it's just been on my mind since you mentioned it. And he's like, oh, that's the way to my heart, that. And so then, of course, my little lover girl brain on Saturday morning was like, "Oh, maybe I'll just go drop this off. Like, not for us to hang out. Like, I'll literally leave the food outside of his door and just go on about my day." And so when he's now telling me the session is canceled, I was like, "Oh, well, what's your plan now?" He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna essentially read a book," and I was like, "Okay, cool." He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm cooking that food." I think for me, there's that assumption or expectation because now you're free and you ain't got nothing to do that you'd be like, want to hang out? Because for me, I don't know. And this is where I feel like, of course, people require their free time. We've been hanging out every weekend for the last month and a half. Like, you may just want a weekend to yourself, and that's totally fine. And it genuinely is totally fine, but I'm like, then just say that, like, because he's sending me memes like every 5 seconds throughout all of yesterday. He's telling me he's watching like trash TV and all this other stuff, and I'm like, so you're not really doing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm done cooking. We're both just talking to each other about how we're just sitting at home watching TV. We could be watching TV together. Like, why don't you want to spend time? Hello. But I also understand, okay, yeah, you need your own alone time. Like we're still even talking throughout the day. This is a version of quality time for sure. But I think that's where I'm just like, hello, physical presence. And I think that might be the clingy side of me when it comes to courting, where I'm just like, yeah, the free time we do have, like, let's really try to maximize it, especially if I'm not going to be seeing you next weekend. Um, that had me feeling a little disappointed. But then I woke up this morning and I'm like, and like throughout yesterday we're talking and I'm literally running to my phone every time I see the bing, a DM come from him because he sent me a meme or something, hoping it's him being like, hey, want to come over? To the point that I wasted my entire Saturday. I have things to do. I wasted my entire Saturday just hoping he would invite me over at some point. Like, come on, girl. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. And that's where I need to tell myself, give yourself the freedom to live your life. Like, even if you like somebody, give yourself the freedom to live your life. Why are you sitting here waiting with bated breath? You could have been doing all sorts of different things yesterday. Again, it wasn't pressing matters. Like, I didn't throw the whole day away. There was no day, but like, I'm like, yeah, I had things to do. And even if I didn't have things to do, I didn't need to be stuck in a mindset where I'm just anxiously waiting, hoping that this person is going to invite me over. When in reality, it's very clear that they want some alone time. And again, that is completely okay. So that's something for myself to resolve within. And I'm very glad that I didn't push because an old version of me would have been like dropping passive aggressive hints to be like, are you gonna invite me over? And most of yesterday, other than being like at one point during the day being like, oh, miss you, like hope you're having a great day in between the memes. yeah, we just left it just at that, at memes. Like, if anything, he was the one sending more feelers, like, I'm just here alone. And I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do with this information. You're the one who had plans and your day got canceled. Would it not be natural that you are the one who's like, hey, my day's changed. Do you want to be a part of it? I don't want to overimpose, you know? And it's these mental gymnastics that are just making me more anxious. And I think that where my brain went was like, that I had to rejig today was like, why wouldn't he want to spend time with me? Oh, is he bored or is he annoyed by me or like, you know, blah 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 blah. Maybe he's not interested anymore. Oh gosh, it's gonna be like 3 weeks in a row not seeing each other. What could be happening in that 3 weeks? Like da 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 da. And I had to just talk myself off that ledge yesterday. And this morning, to be honest, right before I clicked this thing on, I had to talk myself off that ledge. Yeah, and be like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, and yeah, he can have time to himself. Like, because there's gonna be a weekend. I know as I get more comfortable that I'm just like, yeah, I don't feel like seeing you. I don't have anything to do, but like, I just want to do my own thing. And like and I know him because he's a very rational person and very like minded person. And by minded, I mean like just like he's just very like rational. I think that's the thing. Whenever you meet someone that's healthy than you, it reveals your toxicities. And I think this revelation of toxicities within me that leans into you know, a bit more of like a needy, anxious behavior is being revealed right now. And it's just a very uncomfortable realization because it's aspects of myself that I thought were so dead and gone. Like, we're so dead and gone. And it's hard to get this type of reaction out of me, or I haven't had this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just rolling all over the floor. I haven't had this reaction be like generated within me for a while, mainly because the men that I was meeting, it was just so clear that I'm like, this isn't going to last. That like I didn't again allow myself emotionally to get to this place, and so now that I feel really safe, like in his presence, I have my doubts. I have no idea what we're doing, and that's making me feel a little uncomfy. It doesn't make me feel unsafe. And like when I'm actually with him and how I repattern these thoughts is like when I'm with him and when I'm talking to him, I'll go from 100 right down to 0. And that lets me know that like he's still behaving and acting in a way that doesn't rationalize the things that are going through my head, and I need to be aware of that, and I need to take the accountability and ownership to not project that onto him. And so even from him holding space for me last weekend when I was like the fig jam and the this and the that and the da da da, and he gave me the reassurance. He was like, I will do a better job at letting you know where my brain is at as we're developing, so you can know that like I'm interested in really exploring this with you, and like you know where I'm at with other people, which is nowhere at all at this point. I've let those things go. And I was like, but yeah, you haven't told me that, so how am I supposed to know? Like, I appreciated him for that conversation, and I actually later came back when we spoke on the phone, like later in the week, and just said I thank you again, but also I want to apologize because you were like, okay, there's obviously something going on with her, but I just came out of nowhere and I'm like, it's you, it's you. Like, I wasn't like that, but I'm like, I just came and I dumped like all these things that you weren't expecting onto you and then asked you to just hold space for them. Like, and you handled it pretty well when I think any man would have been like, whoa, like, and again, I'm not a conflictual person where I'm out there like like yelling in your face, but like I'm emotional, like in the sense of where I'm just like, whoa. If anything, I'm more of like a crybaby. I'm like, what's going on? You know, like than I am like yelling in your face, like. And I told him I'm gonna, you know, work to try to be more accountable over my own at times catastrophic thinking, even if I feel like in that moment it's justified, right? Like, and I need to make this promise to myself to not allow this to rob me of the joys of living my own independent life that I've been living all up until this point of about a month and a half ago. You were happy, girl, doing your little hobbies on the weekends and doing your readings and doing your work and blah blah blah. Go back and do that. Just because this nigga may or may not be free doesn't mean that you need to just like be sitting here lamenting all day, you know? Um and give yourself permission to like not think about him, you know, like not care about what he's doing, only care about yourself. Like, because that's a radical form of self-love, and that also ensures that you remain healthily independent in relationships that you are developing interdependence with, right? Like, so I think that's my lesson from today. It's like giving yourself permission to like continue to live your life, even when you're feeling emotions, like deep emotions for someone, and giving yourself permissions to let go of narratives in your mind that are not serving you, that are hurting you. Give yourself permission to let go of that hurt that at this point you are feeding onto yourself, because he hasn't done anything to hurt me. He hasn't. I'm making up scenarios at this point. And so I am hurting myself. So I need to give myself permission to not do that anymore. And to love myself instead. Like, feed myself healthier narratives about either what I'm doing with this person, or just healthy narratives about myself. Like, and just do. Go out and be in the world. And so today I am going to take myself to the movies, I think, and maybe go to the bookstore. I have some meal prepping to do, and I'm going to try and keep myself busy, okay? Busy and healthily distracted, while also trying not to be weird. Like, I find that when I'm like trying to cosplay that I am okay when I really am feeling anxious, then it turns into little micro games where like I'll get a text from him and I'm like, well, I'm busy, so I'm gonna respond in 20 minutes. Like, I'm not that, but like, I need to I can respond and still go on about my day, like, and not have it turn into games, essentially. Um, yeah, so that's the diary, y'all. We moving, we're learning. See ya.